Hyunwoo Kim walked through the massive halls of the Galactic Council building and felt very small. The walls were made of some kind of crystal that changed colors when he moved past them. Above his head, the ceiling stretched so high he could barely see where it ended. Strange sounds came from everywhere as different alien species talked to each other in ways humans had never heard before. He had been Earth's first ambassador to the galaxy for 3 months now. Every day was the same, routine. He would sit in the big chamber and listen to 12 different alien species tell him how stupid humans were. They spoke about humans like they were children who had found their parents' tools and were playing with dangerous things they did not understand. The Galactic Council had ruled the galaxy for thousands of years. 12 species worked together to keep order and make sure no young civilizations caused trouble. They had seen many species try to join the galaxy before humans showed up. Most of those species were now called protected developing species, which meant they had no real power and had to do whatever the council told them to do. Hyunwoo reached the main council chamber and took his usual seat in the observer section. The chamber was built like a huge bowl with the council members sitting in the center. Each species had their own special area designed for their needs. The Vorthak looked like living crystals and made music when they talked. The Nalari were made of gas and lived inside metal suits that helped them stay together. The Threnodi looked like giant insects and shared one mind across millions of bodies. Today felt different, though. The chamber was more crowded than usual, and all the council members seemed excited about something. Hyunwoo had learned to read their body language over the past few months, even though they were nothing like humans. Councillor Zephython of the Vorthak rose from his crystal platform. When he moved, his body made sounds like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. But today the sounds were sharp and angry instead of peaceful. Hyunwoo knew this meant trouble. "Human ambassador," Zephython said, and his words came out as musical notes, that the translation device in Hyunwoo's ear turned into speech. "Your species has been observed for sufficient time. The Council has reached a decision regarding Earth's future in galactic society." Hyunwoo sat up straighter in his chair. He had been expecting this moment but hoped it would never come. Back on Earth, everyone knew that first contact with aliens might not go well. Humans had read too many stories about alien invasions to be completely optimistic. But they had also hoped that real aliens would be more reasonable than the ones in movies. "The human species," continued another counselor, this one from the Nalari, "has shown remarkable advancement in a very short time. Your people went from riding animals to traveling between stars in less than 1,000 years. This speed of development is unusual and concerning." A Threnodi counselor joined the conversation. When the insect aliens spoke, it sounded like millions of voices talking at once because that was exactly what it was. "The Council has observed human military activities, technological research, and social structures. Humans show patterns that suggest potential for galactic disruption if left unchecked." Hyunwoo felt his heart start beating faster. He had been trained for this job by Earth's best diplomats and psychologists. They had told him to stay calm, no matter what the alien said. They had told him that showing fear would make humans look weak. But they had also told him that showing too much confidence might make humans look dangerous. "The Galactic Council," Zephython announced, "hereby offers Earth membership in galactic society under the Protected Developing Species Program. This offer comes with specific requirements that must be accepted within 30 standard galactic days." Hyunwoo pulled out his datapad and started taking notes. He had been expecting something like this, but had hoped the Council would offer Earth normal membership instead of the protected status that would make humans second-class citizens in their own galaxy. "First," said the Nalari counselor, "all human military vessels must be surrendered to Council authority. Your species will be allowed to maintain police forces for internal security, but no weapons capable of threatening other worlds. Second," added the Threnodi, "all human scientific research must be approved by Council oversight committees. Technologies deemed potentially dangerous will be restricted or forbidden. Third," Zephython continued, "human population growth must be controlled according to Council guidelines. Your species reproduces too quickly and consumes resources at unsustainable rates." The list went on and on. Humans would not be allowed to colonize new worlds without Council permission. Human trade with other species would be limited and monitored. Human culture would be studied and modified to remove elements the Council considered harmful or primitive. When the counselors finished reading their demands, the chamber fell silent. All eyes turned to Hyun-woo. He could feel the weight of their attention pressing down on him like a heavy blanket. These aliens expected him to be grateful for their offer. They expected him to thank them for allowing his species to survive. Instead, something unexpected happened. Hyun-woo felt a small laugh building up in his chest. He tried to stop it but could not. The laugh grew bigger and bubbled up through his throat. Before he could control himself, he let out a clear, genuine chuckle that echoed through the vast chamber. The sound seemed to confuse the aliens. Their various forms of communication stopped as they tried to understand what they had just heard. The crystal vorthak flickered different colors. The gaseous Nilari swirled inside their metal suits. The Threnodi's million voices fell into uncertain whispers. "Honored counselors," Hyun-woo said, standing up from his chair and smiling. "I want to thank you for this very generous offer. I will make sure to pass along every word of your proposal to my government back on Earth." He paused and looked around the chamber at all the alien faces staring at him. His smile grew a little bigger. "I am sure they will find your terms as interesting as I do," he continued. "Earth will need the full 30 days to consider such an important decision. We would not want to rush into anything without careful thought." The way he said it made it sound like humans actually had a choice in the matter. The aliens had expected immediate submission, or at least fear. They had delivered ultimatums to hundreds of species before, and the response was always the same: terror, followed by desperate negotiations, followed by reluctant acceptance. But this human was acting like someone had just offered to buy his house for a price that was too low. Polite but not particularly worried about what would happen if he said no. Counselor Zephathon's crystalline form pulsed with confusion. "Ambassador Kim, perhaps you do not understand the seriousness of this situation. The Council's offer is not merely a suggestion. Species that refuse to accept protected status are considered threats to galactic peace." "Oh, I understand perfectly," Hyun-woo replied, still smiling that calm, confident smile. "And I appreciate your concern for galactic peace. That shows great wisdom and responsibility on your part." He gathered his notes and prepared to leave. "I will contact Earth immediately and arrange for our government's response within your specified time frame. Thank you again for this opportunity." As Hyun-woo walked toward the exit, he could hear confused alien conversations starting up behind him. They were probably trying to figure out why the human had not begged for mercy or offered to negotiate better terms. They were probably wondering if humans were too stupid to understand the threat or too primitive to fear superior technology. If they had asked him, Hyun-woo could have explained that humans understood the threat perfectly well. They just had a very different way of dealing with threats than most species. But the counselors did not ask. They just watched the small human diplomat walk out of their chamber with the same confident stride he had used to walk in. Outside, in the corridor, Hyun-woo's smile faded and his hands started shaking a little. He had just delivered what amounted to a rejection of the most powerful government in the galaxy. In 30 days, Earth would have to give an official answer. And if that answer was no, 12 species with technology beyond human understanding would come to destroy everything humans had ever built. But as he walked back to his quarters to send a message to Earth, Hyun-woo found himself chuckling again. Because he knew something the Galactic Council did not know. He knew what humans were like when someone threatened their families and their freedom. The aliens were about to learn that some species do not go quietly into the night. President Bo-Ra Choi sat in the emergency meeting room deep under the city of Seoul and watched as Earth's most important leaders argued about whether humanity should fight or surrender. The room was built to survive nuclear war, but now it might need to survive something much worse. Above them, normal people were going about their daily lives with no idea that aliens had just given Earth an ultimatum. The holographic display in the center of the table showed 12 different alien fleets positioned around the galaxy. Each fleet was bigger than anything humans had ever built. The smallest alien ship was larger than Earth's biggest space station. The largest alien ships were so big they could carry entire cities inside them. The numbers do not look good, Admiral Taman Park said as he pointed to the display. Our entire Space Force has maybe 200 ships that could fight in a real battle. They have over 50,000 ships between all 12 fleets. Their weapons are more powerful than ours and their shields are stronger than our best attacks. Dr. Ji-Hoon Lee adjusted his glasses and cleared his throat. Admiral Park is correct about the military situation, but I think we are missing something important about these aliens. President Choi looked at the scientist. What do you mean? I have been studying the information Ambassador Kim sent us about each species, Dr. Lee said. I also looked at all the data we collected when their ships first arrived in our solar system. These aliens are not like us. Obviously they are not like us, grumbled General Dong-Soo Han from the army. They are aliens. No, I mean something more specific, Dr. Lee continued. Look at where they come from. He changed the display to show the home planets of each council species. Every single world was almost perfect. Warm climates, plenty of water, rich soil, no dangerous weather, no deadly animals, no diseases that could kill entire populations. Every one of these species evolved on paradise worlds, Dr. Lee explained. They never had to fight ice ages or volcanic eruptions or meteor impacts. They never had to worry about their food running out or their water drying up. They never had plagues that killed millions of their people. Captain Yujin Song from Special Operations leaned forward in her chair. So what does that mean for us? It means they have never learned to fight the way we fight, Dr. Lee said. Look at human history. We have been fighting wars for thousands of years. Not just wars against other humans, but wars against our own planet. Famines, floods, earthquakes, diseases. We learned to survive when everything was against us. President Choi was starting to understand. You think they do not know how to fight a desperate enemy? I think they do not even understand what a desperate enemy looks like, Dr. Lee replied. When they give ultimatums to other species, those species probably surrender because the smart thing to do is surrender. But humans have never been very good at doing the smart thing when the smart thing means giving up. Admiral Park shook his head. Even if you are right, we still cannot win a straight fight. Their technology is too advanced. Then we do not fight a straight fight, said Captain Song. We fight the kind of fight humans have always been good at. She stood up and walked over to the display. With a few gestures, she changed it to show Earth's solar system. The aliens expect us to line up our ships and have a proper space battle, she said. They expect us to follow the rules of war that civilized species follow. But what if we do not do that? What are you suggesting? Asked President Choi. I am suggesting we disappear, Captain Song replied. All of us, the entire human race. The room fell silent. Everyone stared at the Special Operations Captain like she had lost her mind. Explain, President Choi said quietly. Captain Song smiled. It was not a nice smile. For the past 50 years, we have been building underground cities in case of nuclear war. We have space habitats that can support millions of people. We have mining bases in the asteroid belt that most people do not even know about. She gestured to the display again. What if when the aliens arrive they find nothing? What if Earth looks completely empty? What if our space fleet has vanished and our cities are deserted? They would search for us, Admiral Park said. Of course they would, Captain Song agreed. But space is very big and we are very small. And while they are looking for us, we can be looking for them. Dr. Lee's eyes lit up behind his glasses. Guerrilla warfare, but in space. Exactly, said Captain Song. Small human teams hitting their supply ships and then disappearing. Sabotage operations against their bases. Psychological warfare to make them afraid and confused. General Han frowned. That might work for a while, but they will eventually find our hiding places. Will they? Asked Dr. Lee. I have been studying their psychology as well as their technology. These species think in terms of big, organized battles. They probably have never dealt with an enemy that refuses to be found. President Choi stood up and walked around the table. Let me make sure I understand this plan. We evacuate Earth's entire population to hidden locations throughout the solar system. We break up our space fleet into small units that can strike and run, and we turn this into the kind of war that humans know how to fight. That is the basic idea, Captain Song said. But there is more. We also need to think about what happens after we start winning. After we start winning? Admiral Park looked skeptical. You are very confident. I am confident because I know something these aliens do not know, Captain Song replied. I know that humans fight harder when someone threatens their families, and I know that humans get more creative when they are scared. She pointed to the display showing the alien fleets. These aliens have been using the same tactics for thousands of years because those tactics always work, but they have never fought humans before. President Choi made her decision. We will need to move fast. How long to evacuate the major population centers? 2 weeks if we use every transport ship and spaceplane we have, said Admiral Park. But people will ask questions. Tell them it is a military exercise, President Choi said. Tell them we are testing our emergency procedures in case of asteroid impact or solar flare. Most people will believe that. What about the space fleet? Asked General Han. Captain Song smiled again. We scatter them throughout the outer system. Every ship gets new orders and new hiding spots. When the aliens come looking for a fight, we will give them something much worse. Which is? A hunt, she said. And humans are very good hunters. Dr. Lee was already working on his tablet, pulling up files and making notes. We will need to modify our ships for stealth operations. We will need new communication systems that the aliens cannot detect, and we will need to train every person in the fleet for this kind of fighting. How long do we have? President Choi asked. Ambassador Kim said 30 days for our official response, Admiral Park replied. But the aliens will probably start moving their fleets toward Earth as soon as they send the ultimatum. They will want to be in position when the deadline comes. Then, we have maybe 3 weeks to disappear completely, President Choi said. After that, we see if humans are as dangerous as I think we are. She looked around the room at the faces of Earth's military and political leaders. I want to be very clear about what we are choosing. If we do this, there is no going back. We will be at war with the most powerful government in the galaxy. Some of us will die. Maybe all of us will die. But if we surrender, said Captain Song, we will live as slaves. Our children will grow up in cages built by aliens who think humans are too dangerous to be free. And we will spend the rest of human history wondering what might have happened if we had fought back, added Dr. Lee. President Choi nodded. Then we are decided. Begin Operation Prometheus immediately. The name came from an old human story about stealing fire from the gods. It seemed like the right name for a plan to steal freedom from aliens who thought they were gods. As the meeting broke up and people hurried away to begin the most desperate gamble in human history, President Choi remained in her chair for a moment. She thought about all the humans who would soon be living in hiding, waiting for a war that would decide the future of their species. She thought about Ambassador Kim, still on the alien station, probably wondering what Earth's response would be. She thought about the alien council members, so confident in their power that they probably had not even considered the possibility that humans might say no. In 3 weeks, they would find out what humans were really like when someone tried to take away their freedom. President Choi hoped the aliens were ready for that lesson. She had a feeling they were not. Ambassador Hyunwoo Kim walked into the Galactic Council chamber for what he knew would be the last time. Exactly 30 days had passed since the ultimatum, and he carried Earth's official response in a simple metal cylinder. The alien counselors watched him with what he had learned to recognize as anticipation mixed with irritation. They expected him to be carrying humanity's surrender. After all, every other species in the galaxy's history had eventually accepted protected status rather than face complete destruction. The Council had perfected this process over thousands of years, and no species had ever been foolish enough to choose extinction over submission. Hyunwoo took his place at the center of the chamber and looked up at the 12 different species that ruled the galaxy. The crystal Vorthak were glowing brighter than usual, which meant they were excited. The gaseous Nalari were swirling faster inside their metal suits, another sign of anticipation. The insectoid Threnodi were making clicking sounds that their translator said meant satisfaction. Human ambassador, Counselor Zephthon announced, his crystal form resonating with harmonic authority. 30 standard galactic days have passed. The Council requires Earth's official response to our generous offer of protected membership. Hyunwoo opened the cylinder and pulled out a single sheet of paper. In an age of digital communication and holographic displays, the simple paper document seemed almost primitive. But sometimes primitive things carried more weight than advanced technology. Honored counselors, he began, his voice clear and steady, my government has carefully considered your proposal. We have discussed it at the highest levels and examined it from every possible angle. He paused, and that familiar small smile appeared on his face again. Earth's official response is that we respectfully decline your offer. The chamber erupted in chaos. The vortex crystal forms flashed angry red colors while making sounds like breaking glass. The Nalari spun violently inside their containment suits, creating small storms of compressed gas. The Threnodi's million voices rose to a screaming buzz that hurt Hyunwoo's ears even through his translator. When the noise finally died down, Counselor Zephthon spoke in tones that would have frozen water. Ambassador Kim, perhaps your translation device is malfunctioning. Surely your species cannot be choosing extinction over wisdom. Our translation systems work perfectly, Hyunwoo replied, still smiling. And our decision is final. Earth will not accept protected status under the current terms. A Nalari counselor's voice hissed through their suit speakers. Then your species has chosen to be eliminated as a threat to galactic peace. The Council's fleets will depart for Earth immediately. You should know, added a Threnodi representative, that resistance is not only futile, but will result in complete destruction of your homeworld. Surrender now and your people will be relocated to suitable reservation worlds. Hyunwoo carefully folded the response letter and put it back in the cylinder. Thank you for that information. I will be sure to pass it along to Earth. As he turned to leave, he paused and looked back at the assembled aliens. Oh, and counselors, my government asked me to give you one final message. Which is, good luck. The way he said it made it sound less like a polite farewell and more like a challenge. As Hyunwoo walked out of the chamber, he could hear confused alien voices trying to understand what they had just witnessed. Within hours, the 12 Council fleets began moving toward Earth's solar system. The largest military force in galactic history was converging on one small blue planet, whose people had apparently chosen death over slavery. The fleet commanders were confident this would be the shortest war in Council history. Admiral Kyung-ho Nam stood on the bridge of the UES Incheon and watched the alien fleets approach through the asteroid belt. His ship was hidden inside a hollowed-out asteroid, invisible to alien sensors and waiting for the enemy to reveal their intentions. Around him, his crew worked quietly at their stations, preparing for a kind of battle none of them had ever imagined. Sir, reported Lieutenant Jae-sung Park from the sensor station, the alien fleets are assuming the crushing sphere formation around Earth. Admiral Nam nodded. The crushing sphere was the Council's favorite tactic for intimidating primitive species. Thousands of massive warships would surround a planet in a perfect geometric pattern, demonstrating overwhelming power while making escape impossible. It had worked on every species that had ever seen it. Any sign they have detected? Our forces, he asked. No, sir. As far as they know, Earth's entire space fleet has vanished. That was exactly what had happened, but not in the way the aliens expected. Every human military vessel had been broken down into small units and hidden throughout the outer solar system. Some were disguised as asteroids, others were powered down and drifting like space debris, and a few were actually hidden inside real asteroids that had been hollowed out for this purpose. The human population had also vanished. Earth's cities appeared completely empty from space because everyone was now living in underground shelters that had been built over decades. The planet looked abandoned, which was exactly what the humans wanted the aliens to think. Communications from the enemy fleet, reported Ensign Mi-Young Lee. Put it through. The main screen showed a crystal Vorthak commander whose form was pulsing with confident authority. Humans of Earth, This is Fleet Commander Veltar of the Galactic Council. Your planet is now completely surrounded. Surrender immediately and your species will be relocated to appropriate worlds where you can live under Council protection. Admiral Nam smiled grimly. No response. Let them wonder. The alien fleet waited for 6 hours, repeating their surrender, demands every 30 minutes. When no response came, they began scanning Earth more carefully. Their sensors showed empty cities, silent communication networks, and no signs of industrial activity. The planet appeared to be completely deserted. Commander So Young Han crouched in the maintenance tunnel of a Threnody hive ship and listened to the insect aliens chattering in confusion above her. Getting aboard the enemy vessel had been easier than expected because the Council species had never dealt with boarding parties before. Their security was designed to prevent other fleets from attacking, not to stop small teams of humans with modified mining equipment. Her team of 12 Marines had been inside the alien ship for 6 hours, slowly working their way toward the central communication hub. The Threnody were so busy trying to figure out where the humans had gone that they never thought to check if humans might already be among them. Phoenix Leader, this is Phoenix 2, whispered Sergeant Woojin Kim through her helmet radio. We are in position at the power distribution center. Phoenix 3 in position at the navigation systems, added Corporal Yan Ho Song. So Young checked her modified mining laser one more time. The weapon had been designed to cut through asteroid rock, but it would work just as well on alien metal. All teams commence operation on my mark. Remember, we want to disable, not destroy. We need them confused, not dead. Phoenix Leader, Phoenix 2 ready, Phoenix 3 ready, Phoenix 4 ready. So Young took a deep breath. Mark. What happened next was something the Threnody hive mind had never experienced in its 1,000-year history. Multiple systems throughout their massive ship began failing simultaneously. Power fluctuated wildly as human saboteurs introduced Earth, bacteria into the ship's organic power systems. Navigation computers started giving impossible readings as their quantum processors were infected with human-designed viruses. Communication arrays went silent as their crystal matrices were cracked by precisely placed mining charges. The worst part for the Threnody was that their hive mind depended on constant communication between all parts of the ship. When the communication systems failed, sections of the hive mind became isolated and began to panic. For a species that had shared thoughts for millennia, the sudden silence was worse than physical pain. Similar operations were taking place throughout the alien fleet. Human teams that had been training for this moment for 3 weeks were putting their plans into action with deadly precision. Ships began losing power, communication systems went down, and navigation computers started reporting their location as somewhere in a completely different galaxy. Dr. Min-Ho Park worked frantically in his laboratory aboard the hidden research vessel Sol, analyzing data from the sabotage operations. His team had discovered something remarkable about Council technology during their brief study of captured alien equipment. The aliens had become so dependent on overwhelming superiority that they had never developed effective defenses against low-technology attacks. It is like they forgot that wars could be won with simple tools. He explained to Admiral Nam over their encrypted communication link. Their shields can stop energy weapons that could destroy planets, but they cannot handle a mining laser that cuts metal one molecule at a time. What about their repair capabilities? Admiral Nam asked. That is the beautiful part, Dr. Park replied. Their automated repair systems are designed to handle battle damage from other advanced weapons, but when a human introduces Earth bacteria that eat their hull materials, or when someone manually rewires their control systems with primitive tools, their computers cannot figure out what is happening. Major Won-Shik Kim sat in the Psychological Warfare Center on the hidden base Busan and watched his broadcasts spree news of humanity's impossible resistance spread across the galaxy like wildfire through dry grass. On 1,000 different worlds, alien civilians gathered around their communication devices to hear the latest reports from Earth's solar system. What they heard defied everything they had been taught about the natural order of the universe. The mighty Galactic Council, rulers of space for 10,000 years, was being systematically humiliated by a species that had only learned to travel between stars 200 years ago. Fleets that had never known defeat were limping back to their bases with hull damage and systems failures. Ships that could destroy entire worlds were being crippled by attacks so primitive that Council computers could not even understand what was happening. On the crystal world of SciFiPrime, young crystal beings who had never questioned their government's wisdom began asking uncomfortable questions. Elder crystals who had lived through dozens of Council victories found themselves unable to explain why their finest military commanders seemed helpless against human tactics. "How can creatures with such primitive technology damage our ships?" asked one young Vorthak during a public resonance gathering. The Elder Crystal's harmonic response carried notes of confusion and uncertainty. "Their technology may be primitive, but their methods are unlike anything we have encountered. They do not fight as civilized species fight." Similar conversations were happening throughout Council space. On the gas giant stations where the Nalari lived, workers began questioning why their supposedly invincible fleets needed constant reinforcement just to fight one small planet. In the vast hive cities of the Threnody, individual voices began expressing doubts that the collective mind had never allowed before. Dr. Minho Park worked 18-hour days in his mobile laboratory, analyzing every piece of alien technology his teams could capture or salvage. His research vessel moved constantly through the outer solar system, staying ahead of Council search patterns, while his team unlocked the secrets of alien engineering. "Their technology is incredibly advanced," he explained to Admiral Num during their daily briefing, "but it is also incredibly specialized. Every system is designed to work perfectly under ideal conditions, but they have no backup plans for when things go wrong." "What do you mean?" Admiral Nam asked. "Look at this." Dr. Park displayed a holographic image of a damaged alien power core. This device can generate enough energy to power a small city, but it was completely shut down by Earth bacteria that we introduced into its organic components. The aliens never considered that someone might use biological warfare against their technology, because they never encountered biology like ours, Admiral Nam said, understanding. "Exactly. Their homeworlds are paradise planets with stable ecosystems and no dangerous microorganisms. They never learned to design defenses against biological attacks because they never needed to." The implications were staggering. Council technology was vulnerable to attacks that would never occur to species from perfect worlds. Human bacteria could eat through alien hull materials. Human viruses could confuse alien computers. Human tactics that seemed primitive and desperate could defeat weapons designed to destroy planets. Major Wanshik Kim expanded his psychological warfare campaign beyond simple questions. His broadcasts now included testimonials from captured alien prisoners who had been treated with unexpected kindness by their human captors. Council species had expected humans to torture and execute prisoners like the barbarians they were supposed to be. Instead, they found themselves receiving medical care and decent food while being asked polite questions about their home worlds and families. "The humans are nothing like what we were told," one captured Nalari officer said in a broadcast that reached gas giant stations throughout the galaxy. "They treat us better than our own commanders did. They ask about our families and show us pictures of their children. These are not monsters. These are people defending their homes." The effect on Council morale was devastating. Alien soldiers began questioning why they were fighting a war against people who seemed more concerned with their prisoners' welfare than with revenge. Reports began reaching alien high command of units refusing orders, desertion rates climbing, and entire ships requesting reassignment away from the Earth system. Captain So Young Han led her boarding teams in increasingly daring raids against alien vessels. What had started as sabotage operations evolved into something much more sophisticated. Her teams were now capturing entire sections of alien ships and turning their own weapons against the Council fleets. "The key," she explained to her team leaders, "is that they never learned to fight inside their own ships. Their security systems are designed to prevent boarding, not to deal with enemies who are already aboard." Her latest operation targeted a massive Vorthak command ship that coordinated an entire battle group. Using techniques developed from studying alien technology, her team had learned to mimic the harmonic frequencies that Vorthak crystals used for identification. To the ship's computer systems, the human infiltrators looked like authorized crew members. Once inside, they did not try to destroy the ship or kill its crew. Instead, they carefully reprogrammed its navigation systems to broadcast false position reports to other Council vessels. Within hours, the entire battle group was scattered across the solar system, as ships tried to regroup at coordinates that did not actually exist. The psychological impact was even more important than the tactical victory. Council commanders realized that their own ships could be turned against them without their knowledge. The technology they had trusted for millennia might already be compromised. Paranoia began spreading through the fleet as officers wondered if their navigation computers, their communication systems, or even their life support could be trusted. Commander Yoon Ji-yoon's success in hijacking the Council's primary communication hub had opened new possibilities for human operations. Her team now regularly accessed alien communication networks, not to destroy them, but to listen and learn. The intelligence they gathered revealed that the Council was facing political crisis on multiple fronts. The member species are starting to blame each other, she reported during a secure briefing. The Vorthak think the Nalari are not trying hard enough. The Threnodi believe the other species are holding back their best ships. The smaller Council members are wondering why they should support a war that seems unwinnable. Admiral Nam studied the intelligence reports with growing satisfaction. How long before the alliance breaks apart? Hard to say, but the cracks are showing. We intercepted communications between Threnodi commanders and their home hive mind. They are starting to question whether the war is worth the cost. The cost was indeed becoming enormous. Council fleets that had expected a quick victory were now trapped in an extended campaign that consumed resources at an alarming rate. Supply ships were being destroyed faster than they could be replaced. Repair facilities throughout Council space were overwhelmed with damaged vessels. Most importantly, the psychological toll was breaking the spirit of species that had never known defeat. Captain Yoo-jin Song led a special operations team on what many considered the most audacious mission of the war. Deep inside Council space, a massive shipyard produced the weapons and vessels that kept the alien fleets operational. The facility was supposed to be impregnable, protected by automated defenses and surrounded by patrol fleets. But human intelligence had discovered that the shipyard's workers were not volunteers. They were members of the 47 protected developing species that the Council kept as barely above slave labor. If those workers could be turned against their masters, the shipyard would become useless. Captain Song's team infiltrated the facility by disguising themselves as members of one of the worker species. Once inside, they made contact with the facility's real workers and shared something the aliens had never heard before: hope. The humans are winning, Captain Song told a gathering of worker representatives in the facility's deepest maintenance tunnels. For the first time in galactic history, someone is successfully fighting the Council, but we cannot win alone. We need your help. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Workers who had lived their entire lives under Council oppression suddenly saw a chance for freedom. Within days, the shipyard's production ground to a halt as accidents and equipment failures became daily occurrences. Finished warships developed mysterious problems that required them to return for extensive repairs. Construction schedules fell months behind as critical components were misplaced or installed incorrectly. The shipyard's Council overseers never suspected sabotage because they had never considered that their workers might rebel. Protected species were supposed to be grateful for Council protection. The idea that they might prefer freedom to safety was literally unthinkable to species that had grown up on perfect worlds. Dr. Park's research teams made another crucial discovery when they analyzed debris from destroyed Council ships. The aliens' manufacturing processes were so standardized that every ship of a given class was essentially identical. This meant that any weakness discovered in one vessel would apply to all similar ships throughout the galaxy. 6 months after the first shots were fired in what historians would later call the Liberation War, the impossible happened. A communication arrived at Earth from the remnants of the Galactic Council, transmitted on all frequencies and in every language known to galactic civilization. The message was simple but carried weight that would reshape the galaxy forever. The Galactic Council formally requested a ceasefire. Ambassador Hyun-woo Kim received the message while aboard the Human Command ship that had been hidden in the Kuiper Belt throughout the war. As he read the carefully worded alien text, he found himself chuckling again. just as he had in the council chambers months ago. But this time, the laughter carried no nervousness or uncertainty. This time, it was the satisfied chuckle of someone whose impossible gamble had paid off. President Bora Choi convened an emergency meeting of Earth's leadership, but the mood was very different from their desperate planning session 6 months earlier. The holographic displays now showed council fleets retreating from human space, alien supply lines in complete chaos, and rebellion spreading throughout what had once been the galaxy's most stable government. "They want to negotiate," Admiral Kyung-ho Nam reported. "Their message says they are prepared to discuss terms for humanity's integration into galactic society under revised conditions." "Revised conditions," repeated Dr. Ji-hoon Lee with obvious satisfaction. 6 months ago they wanted us to surrender unconditionally. Now they want to negotiate. Captain Yu Jin Song leaned back in her chair and smiled. What they want and what they get are going to be two very different things. President Choi studied the latest intelligence reports from across the galaxy. The war had accomplished far more than just military victory over the council fleets. It had sparked a wave of rebellion among the protected developing species that the council had kept under their control for centuries. 47 different species were demanding independence, and many of them were using human tactics to fight their own liberation wars. "The question," President Choi said, "is what kind of galaxy we want to help create. We could probably negotiate favorable terms for Earth and leave everyone else to sort out their own problems. Or we could try to build something better." The decision was not difficult. Humans had not fought this war just to trade alien masters for alien partners. They had fought for the principle that no species should have the right to control another's destiny. If they won freedom only for themselves, they would be betraying everything they had sacrificed for. 3 days later, Ambassador Kim returned to the council chambers for the first time since delivering humanity's rejection of the original ultimatum. The chamber looked very different now. Where once 12 species had sat in positions of absolute authority, now only 4 remained. The others had either withdrawn from the council entirely or were fighting their own internal rebellions. Counselor Zephthon's crystal form had lost much of its brilliant luminance. When he spoke, his harmonic voice carried notes of weariness and defeat that would have been unthinkable 6 months earlier. "Ambassador Kim," he said, "the Council acknowledges that our initial assessment of humanity was incorrect. We are prepared to offer your species full membership in galactic civilization, with all the rights and privileges that membership entails." Yunwoo set down his data pad and looked up at the remaining counselors. "Honored representatives, my government appreciates your revised offer. However, our terms may surprise you." He activated a holographic display that showed his government's counter-proposal. The aliens read through the document with growing confusion and alarm. "You want to dissolve the Galactic Council?" asked a Nalari representative, their voice hissing with shock through their containment suit. "Not dissolve," Hyunwoo corrected. "Transform. We propose replacing the Council with a democratic federation where all species are represented based on their population and contribution, not their military power or ancient privileges." The Threnody representatives' million voices buzzed with agitation. This would eliminate the natural order that has maintained galactic peace for 10 millennia. "Your natural order," Hyunwoo replied calmly, "was built on the slavery of 47 species and the threat of genocide against anyone who disagreed with your decisions. We do not consider that to be peace." The negotiations continued for weeks as human representatives worked with the remaining council members and delegates from newly liberated species to design a new form of galactic government. The process was difficult because most of the alien species had never experienced democracy and found the concept strange and frightening. Dr. Sang-Woo Kwan, Earth's new Secretary of Interstellar Affairs, spent most of his time explaining basics, democratic principles to alien politicians who had never considered that ordinary citizens might have opinions worth hearing. "The idea," he explained to a gathering of former council species, "is that government exists to serve the people, not the other way around. Leaders are chosen by those they lead, and they can be removed if they fail to fulfill their responsibilities. The concept was revolutionary to species that had been ruled by hereditary castes or hive minds for their entire history. Many found it difficult to understand why anyone would want such an unstable and unpredictable system of government. But the protected developing species understood perfectly. For centuries, they had lived under the absolute authority of their council masters, watching their potential limited by alien decisions about what was best for them. The chance to control their own destinies was worth any amount of chaos or uncertainty. Admiral Chang Min, newly promoted to head the Federation Defense Force, faced the challenging task of integrating human military doctrine with alien technology and tactics. The new Federation would need armed forces, but they would need to be very different from the Council's fleets that had been designed purely for intimidation and conquest. "We are not building a military to conquer other species," he explained to a mixed group of human and alien officers. "We are building a defense force to protect freedom and democracy throughout the galaxy. That means we fight very differently from the way the Council fought." The integration was not always smooth. Many alien officers struggled to understand human concepts like initiative, improvisation, and fighting for principles rather than orders. But gradually, they began to see the advantages of the human approach. Captain So Young Han established the Federation Special Operations Academy where human instructors taught alien students the arts of guerrilla warfare, psychological operations, and asymmetric tactics. The curriculum was popular with younger aliens who had grown frustrated with the rigid military hierarchies of their home species. "The most important lesson," she told her students, "is that victory does not always go to the side with the biggest guns. Sometimes it goes to the side with the strongest reasons to fight." The political transformation was equally challenging. President Choi, now serving as the first president of the Galactic Federation, worked tirelessly to build consensus among species that had radically different concepts of governance, individual rights, and social organization. The Federation's founding document, known as the Galactic Charter, established principles that seemed obvious to humans but were revolutionary to many alien species. The right of all sentient beings to self-determination, the prohibition against slavery or involuntary servitude, the protection of minority rights within majority rule systems, and the guarantee that no species could be restricted in their development without clear evidence of threat to others. Dr. Min-Ho Park led the Federation Science Council, which replaced the old council's restrictive oversight system with collaborative research programs. For the first time in galactic history, species were encouraged to share their scientific knowledge freely rather than hoarding it for competitive advantage. "Science belongs to all intelligent life," he declared at the first Federation Science Conference. "When we share knowledge, everyone becomes stronger. When we hoard knowledge, everyone becomes weaker." The transformation was not universally popular. Several council species attempted to maintain their old privileges through military force, leading to brief but decisive conflicts with Federation forces. The rebels discovered that fighting Federation troops trained in human tactics was very different from fighting the ritualized battles they were used to. More significantly, some species simply could not adapt to democratic governance and chose to isolate themselves from galactic society rather than participate in the new system. The Federation respected these decisions while making it clear that isolation did not grant immunity from Federation law if they threatened other species. The most remarkable change was psychological. Species throughout the galaxy began to think differently about their relationship with their governments and with each other. The idea that ordinary citizens could influence major decisions, that different species could be equals rather than superiors and inferiors, and that conflict could be resolved through negotiation rather than dominance gradually took root in societies that had never considered such possibilities. 5 years after the war ended, Ambassador Kim stood once again in what had been the Galactic Council Chamber, now renamed the Federation Assembly Hall. But instead of 12 alien overlords sitting in judgment of humanity,